Hi, I'm Caleb from Sematext, and today I want to show you how Sematext can help you streamline your front-end development and maintenance process. The two tools we will talk about today are Sematext Synthetics and Sematext Experience. Now, both of these tools are part of the Sematext Cloud. Think of the Sematext Cloud as a workbench where you have access to all the tools you need to effectively monitor and track your full-stack system. Together, these tools make monitoring a super easy task. Try it out today for free. There's a link down in the description below. No contracts, no credit card, and no commitment are necessary. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at our first tool, Syntehtics. Sematext Synthetics is a synthetic monitoring tool used to test and track the performance of your web applications. With Syntehtics, you can test the performance of an entire website, an individual resource, or both at the same time. Syntehtics is essentially a customizable tool that allows you to create scripts that constantly test and track the availability and performance of your web applications, as well as its APIs. After signing up, the first thing you're going to want to do is to create a new Syntehtics app. Now, an app in the Sematext Cloud is just a way for us to bundle your data together. Think of it like a directory of sorts. What you're going to want to do is come down to Syntehtics, click Create Syntehtics App, and then name it whatever you want, and click Create. Now, within our new app, we will create what's called monitors, the actual tests that will be run. But we need to make a choice. Do we want to do an HTTP monitor, which is a single HTTP request, or do we want to do a browser monitor, which does multiple requests? HTTP monitors run a single request and record those results. This is a great and cheap way to constantly check the availability of an HTTP API or other resources queried via HTTP request. So let's go ahead and create an HTTP monitor, and let's give it a name. This name should reflect what the test is going to do. So let's name it API test. And then you want to select the HTTP method. The HTTP request must be either a get, a post, a put, delete, or patch. Then you're going to want to set the target URL. For this example, I'm going to use fakestoreapi.com. Obviously not a real store, so don't try to buy anything from there. Now we're going to want to set the interval, or how often you want these tests to be run. And then you can select the location from which you want these tests to be run. It's important to be able to run these tests from multiple locations around the globe so that you can ensure that your international audience has access to your site, regardless of where they are. You can select from the servers we have here, or you can add your own private network in the settings. Now let's go ahead and test this app and see how it does. Alrighty, and that's our first run. fakestoreapi.com got a code 200, which is good. We also got a decent response time, which was under our conditioned time. You can see all the conditions that were either pass or fail right here. And then if you click response, you can actually see the real response from that server. On this site, it's just supposed to send back a list of clothing items, which, as you can see, it did. And if you want to further customize the request, you can do that by heading over to the Configure Requests tab. Here you can add your own custom headers, custom query parameters, your body, or cookies. Here under the Configure Alerts tab, you can see the conditions upon which a run is either a pass or a fail. Now by default there are a few, but you can customize these however you want, or you can add your own new condition. Let's add a new condition now. We're going to select a type, go down to metrics, we can do DNS lookup time, and if the DNS lookup time takes more than let's say 800 milliseconds, then that is too much. So now that we have our conditions set up, let's decide who should also be notified when a run fails. Come on down to notifications, and you can determine who should be sent an email when the run fails and how often they should be emailed about these alerts. Once every, let's go 20 minutes, because we don't want to blow up our inbox. By default, the person who owns a synthetic app will get notified. However, you can also add specific people from your team to receive a notification when a run fails. Very useful. Even more useful, you can also block out days that a person should not be notified. Let's say you don't want to disturb Bob on the weekend. You can block out certain days like Saturday or Sunday to not disturb Bob, but he'll receive those notifications on Monday when he gets back to work. Once we're satisfied with our monitor, let's go ahead and click Create. And now we are brought back to the synthetic monitor overview. Here, you can click on each individual monitor and see a collection of runs, or you can go to the left-hand side and click the Runs tab where you can view individual runs and get a full breakdown of how those runs did. Now, that's pretty cool and all, but it only monitors one HTTP request. We want more. Well, Sematext Synthetic Browser Monitor lets you run custom scripts that give you the power to monitor whatever you want on your site. A browser monitor creates a virtualized instance of Google Chrome and runs your script on it and then tracks that data. Using a well-written script, you can use the browser monitors to mimic an entire user's business journey. It's a super powerful tool to test and monitor your site. So let's go ahead and create a browser monitor. Come up in the top right-hand corner, click New Monitor, Browser Monitor, and continue. Now we're going to name it. And we're also going to select the intervals, or how often we want this test to run. Notice that you can also add multiple monitors here if you wanted to test multiple device types, a super powerful tool. Select the location you want these monitors to run from and hit Next. Now, here's the really cool stuff. If you just wanted to monitor your whole site, all you have to do is enter the URL and we will run a set of standardized tests. Or if you wanted to mimic a path an end user would take, come on down to Monitor a User's Journey. Here you can create custom scripts that would mimic the path an end user would take. If you don't know how to code very well, that's okay. You can go to Browse Examples for some inspiration. Go to Load a Web Page and click Import. Here we're going to put our own URL and see how our page looks. Before we do that, I want to make a quick side note. Within these scripts, you can add sensitive data such as usernames and passwords. This allows you to create scripts that test more sensitive parts of your site without having your username and password just being stored in plain text for anybody to grab. Very cool feature. Now back to testing our script. Let's hit Test and see what we get. And it looks like our test passed. Here you can see the resources that were loaded on the page and how they did. You can also see the conditions for a pass or fail run. And you can get a full waterfall breakdown of how each resource was loaded. And you can also see a screenshot of the page that was requested. Extremely useful information presented to you in an easy to understand format. We can go back and configure the conditions just like we did with our other synthetic monitor. However, I'm pretty satisfied with what I have here, so I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Now we can check all the resources in these runs and see how it did over time. Synthetic monitors let you test the performance of your application and hopefully spot issues before your customers come across them. While this is a very powerful tool, it's only half the picture. It's missing that human element. It's missing a real user. The second tool that every front-end developer should have in their tool belt is a real user monitoring tool. Sematext Experience is a real user monitoring tool that allows you to collect data and metrics from real users who have or are currently visiting your site. To get started, create an account with Sematext. Again, that's super easy to do. No credit card information is required to start a trial period. And now create an Experience app. In the main menu's left-hand tab, come on down to Experience and click Create an Experience app. Now we're going to name it whatever we want. I highly recommend naming it after your website, demosite.com. And then select which type of architecture your website is made off of. Experience can monitor standard websites or websites made on a single page architecture, like React, Angular, etc. So select the one that you need, and then click Create App. And now simply copy and paste these two scripts into the head tag of your index.html file, and it's done. Sematext Experience is now receiving real data from your real users. By default, in the Overview tab, we have an AppDex score at the very top. An AppDex score is a formula used to calculate your user satisfaction. Check the link below to learn more about AppDex scores. Hovering over this, you can see what is considered a good, medium, or bad AppDex score, and you can configure these metrics to suit your performance goals at any time. Under that, you will see graphs that will give you an overview of your site's performance at a glance, like an AppDex score over time, top countries, HTTP requests, page load times, top pages, and lots of other important metrics. You can go deeper into each of these metrics by finding the correlating tab on the left-hand side of this menu. Under the Overview tab, we will see the Live View tab. This shows us which part of our site is accessed and from where it's being accessed, geographically speaking, right now. Now, under the Live Resource tab, we will see tabs for page loads, for how your pages have been loaded so far, resources, to show how each of your website's resources have been used or requested, HTTP requests, Web Vitals for an overview of your site's core web vitals, and element timing. There is way too much to go into in one single video, but we will dive into each of them in subsequent videos, so be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date. However, I do want to discuss the users, so let's jump down to the Users and User Session tab. Clicking on Users, you can see your user base. You can see useful information such as where your users are coming from, what kind of device are they using, and what kind of browser they are using. This can help you know if you need to go with a mobile-first solution, or if most of your users are desktop users, a different type of app. You can also see where they are geographically. If most of your users come from a country far away, it might be worth caching your site on a server closer to your main user base. And you can see individual users. By clicking on a user, you can see how many sessions they had on your site and how their experience was, and a lot of other useful information. From here, you can go into the individual user sessions and see how their experience was with your site. Or click on the tab for individual user sessions. You can easily filter out whatever you choose and look at how their experience was on your web app. By looking at what our users are actually experiencing, we can find troublesome page loads and see a full breakdown of why it was slowing down. With both Sematext Experience and Sematext Synthetics, you can create and maintain multiple websites and rest assured that your web apps are performing in tip-top shape. That about does it for this super high-level overview of Sematext front-end solutions. Again, there is so much that we barely touched on in this video, but we will dive deeper in the future. So be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Keep monitoring, everybody.